Discover great things growing in Waterbury. School is back, and Al Karen and the team at Waterbury Service Center want to remind you that road safety is more important than ever. Be alert while driving, especially around buses and children. Be sure to stay safe on the drive to school or wherever else, and as the weather changes, that means good tires. Start planning ahead now, including buying and switching them out. The good news is that Al Karen and the team at Waterbury Service Center are ready to help. Schedule an appointment now for tire changes, oil changes, annual inspection, brakes, or any other maintenance needs. Waterbury Service Center is a full-service auto mechanic conveniently located in downtown Waterbury.
The Brady Farkas Show is produced and funded by WDEV and the Radio Vermont Group. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to wdev@radiovermont.com.
The teams you care about.
Mac Jones is good. That's not the question. The question is he good enough to win repeatedly in this loaded AFC?
The stories that matter to you.
If I'm Xander Bogaerts, I need 3 things in order to get over that insulting contract offer.
This is your home for New England sports.
Jason Tatum, superstar. Book it.
This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
What's up, everybody? Brady Farkas Show on a Thursday right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. So, funny story here. Funny story today. I thought, until like a few hours ago, I thought we had a full show today. I told you last night we had a full show, all 90 minutes. I actually recorded a promo for the show that played up until about noon today that said we had a full show. I was all ready for a full show. I had a full show planned. And then I realized, oh, wait, the Red Sox actually are playing today against the Texas Rangers. I don't like to make mistakes. I really don't like to admit to my mistakes. But this one I've just got to laugh at. I apologize that I misled all of you. I apologize I had you thinking the Red Sox were off today and they weren't. I apologize that I told you there was a full show today and there isn't. We're on for 40 minutes until 6:10. But this is apparently what the Red Sox have done to me. The Red Sox have been so bad. The Red Sox are so out of it that I now no longer can keep their schedule straight. They are no longer now at the forefront of my mind. I love talking about the Red Sox. I love watching the Red Sox, but they are no longer at the forefront of my mind, apparently. That's what they've done to us this season. That's where we're at. They have been so bad that they are no longer right at the top of my prefrontal cortex. I thought they were off today. I had this day scheduled as an off day for like 3 weeks. I was looking at off days. So I'm like, oh, yeah, this Monday, that Thursday. I thought this day was off forever. And here we are. I walk in. I'm like, oh, wait, they're actually playing today. I had a full show. I had all 90 minutes planned. Now I got to cut 50 minutes of it to talk for 40 here. Disappointing. I was ready for a full show. So apologies that I was wrong. Apologies that if you were excited about a full show, we don't get one. I was too. And if you thought you were crazy for thinking the Red Sox were playing and I told you they weren't, you weren't crazy. I was the one who's crazy. But the Red Sox have been so bad that I apparently have just now lost their schedule in my head. We will talk about the Red Sox today. Tyler Milliken of 98.5 The Sports Hub is going to be with us in 15 minutes. As a result of all this scheduling confusion, Danielle Marmer, who we teased yesterday, the first on-ice assistant coach for the Boston Bruins in their history and a Vermont native, she's going to be with us tomorrow at 5:45. So I'm still very excited to talk to Danielle, but she'll be with us tomorrow. Tyler Milliken of 98.5 The Sports Hub and of DraftKings is going to be with us in about 15 minutes. But yeah, the Red Sox have just gotten me so distraught that I now no longer remember when they're playing. You can get in, as always, on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line. That's 802-585-3026. It's your locally owned Napa stores in Waterbury and Morrisville. You can also check us out on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and my Twitter account also.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
The opening thoughts of the Brady Farkas Show were brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and by Swanton Lumber, Vermont's most complete locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. We have spent a lot of, I would say, the last 2.5 weeks, we spent a lot of that time talking about negativity when it comes to the Patriots, right? This guy's negative. That guy doubts them. This guy thinks it's a bridge year. This guy is mad at the offense. This guy thinks Belichick stinks. This guy thinks Belichick's arrogant. The last 2.5 weeks have been a lot of Patriots negativity. Well, I found you earlier today, the one guy who's being positive about the Patriots. This is Mike Tannenbaum, former NFL general manager.
If Mac Jones continues to play the way that I believe he will, the way he started his career, they'll have the second best quarterback in the AFC East. You got to give them credit for that. They stayed where they were in the draft. Mac Jones fell to them, and he may be like the great eraser where he could erase a whole bunch of mistakes. And when it's all said and done, I think New England has a real chance of making the playoffs this year.
So there you go. If you're a Patriots fan and you're looking for some positivity, a little optimism, there it was. Mike Tannenbaum is telling you he thinks they can make the playoffs. And I'll back him up on that. I don't think the Patriots are going to make the playoffs as we sit right now. But if Mac Jones plays out of this world, then yes, they can make the playoffs. So just like Mike says, I'm not thinking that's going to happen, but it is possible. Despite the optimism, which I appreciate, I do have an issue, though, with something that Mike Tannenbaum just said. Can we play the last 10 seconds or so?
To mistakes, and when it's all said and done, I think New England has a real chance of making the playoffs this year.
Okay, a little bit before that. Let's play like the back half of that.
Maybe like the great eraser where he could erase a whole bunch of mistakes, and when it's all said and done, I think New England has a real chance of making the playoffs this year.
That is the part I have a problem with. Mike Tannenbaum says that perhaps Mac Jones can be like the great eraser and erase a whole bunch of mistakes. I have an issue with that. One, I don't think that Mac Jones is that guy. At least right now, I do not think that Mac Jones is special enough. This is not a new position for me. I think Mac Jones is good. I do not think Mac Jones is special. So I do not believe that Mac Jones is the guy to be that, quote, great eraser. But even more so than that, he shouldn't have to be that great eraser. At his age and at his experience level, the organization should be taking care of Mac rather than Mac taking care of the organization. There's something wrong in that train of thought. If Mac Jones is the great eraser, Mac Jones shouldn't have to be the great eraser. Mac Jones's organization should be helping him and aiding him and helping him grow and taking care of him and making life easier for him. His organization should not be relying on him to buoy them up in his second year. Mac Jones does not make a lot of money. His organization should not have a problem putting pieces around him that can prop him up, not expecting it to go the other way. Hey, think about this. This is obviously far more serious, and this is on a real life application. But there are people out there, and you hear the story, you read the story of some 16-year-old who had to basically carry the whole family, right? For whatever reason, something happened, and some 16-year-old has to be the adult of the house. And when we hear that, we all have the same reaction. Wow, that's amazing that they could do that. But it's also terrible they were put in that situation. I wish that they had had a different family life so that they wouldn't have to be the adult and grow up so fast. We all have the same reaction. When we hear that story is sad to us. Now, again, much less serious, but in a football sense, Mac Jones should not have to bear that responsibility right now. Mac Jones, like that kid we're talking about, should have a support system that is there to elevate him. That's what Mac Jones needs. If we're looking for our second-year quarterback to fix the organization, then the organization has done a poor job flat out. That's it. So I appreciate that Mike Tannenbaum likes Mac. I appreciate that Mike Tannenbaum thinks Mac is good enough to go to the playoffs. And I really appreciate that Mike Tannenbaum thinks that Mac can cover for the organization's mistakes. But he shouldn't have to. And if he truly does, that is a big-time problem. Quarterbacks who have been in the league 5-7 years, I expect them to be the big erasers. Quarterbacks who make $45 million a year, I expect them to be big erasers. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, they are the one. Matt Ryan. Like, if you're making that kind of coin, you've got to be able to pick everybody up, and you've got to be able to hide your organization's warts. That's what you get paid to do. That said, Mac Jones, second-year quarterback making no money, he doesn't deserve that responsibility. Look at whatever job you do. Look at whatever job you do. The guy who's been in the business for 15 years is expected to know and do more than the guy who got hired last week. The guy who was at the top of the company is expected to do more than the part-timer. We don't ask in any other business the part-time help, the newcomer, to just save the whole structure. And that's apparently what Mike Tannenbaum thinks Mac Jones can do. He shouldn't have to do that. 802-585-3026. Russell Wilson should cover warts. Kyler Murray should cover warts. Matt Ryan should cover warts. Matt Stafford should cover warts. Those guys, they get paid to do just that. Mac Jones should be able to grow and learn and have help and have a structure and be insulated. He shouldn't have to overcome a franchise's dysfunction single-handedly. Peter says, it's tough to believe what Mike Tannenbaum says, given he just cratered the New York Giants. Well, that was the New York Jets, but regardless, you're talking about Dave Gettleman, who was with the New York Giants. But either way, your point is well documented that Tannenbaum was not a great executive. Fine, but he's still a guy who knows more than we do, right? Like, he still knows more than we do. There's no denying that. Tex says, how many wins and losses do you think the Pats are going to have at the end of the year? I would say they're 8-10, or 8-9, I should say. I would say they're 8-9. That's where I'm at. 8-9. But if Mac Jones, if he's got to buoy everybody around him, the Patriots have done a bad job. Bad job in drafting, bad job in development, bad job in player personnel, bad job in handling the cap, bad job at building the defense. If Mac's got to be everything to the organization, then the Patriots are falling short. I hope that is not the case. When I see the Patriots, I still think that they should be ascending together. Okay, the young offense, the new offense, Mac Jones, the young quarterback, they should be growing and cresting together. That is how I think about it. I don't look at it like Mac's got to be up here and he's just kind of pulling everybody along for the ride. That shouldn't be the case. It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Let's move over to the Red Sox here. Red Sox beat the Twins yesterday, salvaged Game 3 of that series. They're getting ready for the Rangers today. Tyler Milliken, 98.5 The Sports Hub in Boston, and part of the Jared Carabas podcast over on DraftKings. He is going to be with us next. Which soon-to-be free agent does he want back most? I'll ask him that next, right here on the Brady Farkas Show on DEV.
Hi there. Patients and their families often remind me how fortunate we are to have Copley Hospital right here in our community. And I agree. Hi, I'm Joe Wooden, Copley's administrator and a community member who also uses Copley services. I'm happy to announce that Copley has recently been awarded a 5-star quality rating from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. In essence, the feds. We are only one of 4 Vermont hospitals and the only critical access hospital to receive this distinction. This 5-star rating was determined by you, our patients, through satisfaction surveys, which let us know what we do well and how we can get better. We do appreciate, very much so, the suggestions and the feedback. Copley's team takes great pride in delivering high-quality, compassionate care that is close and convenient to our homes. Our patients come first, and this 5-star rating demonstrates your confidence in us as well as our commitment to quality care. Thank you for your continuing support, and join me in thanking the Copley team for their dedication.
Looking for a fun way to support the Vermont Mountaineers? Well, here it is. Join headliner Chad Hollister's large band, with special guests, the VT Bluegrass Pioneers, for an evening of music, games, and drinks, all in support of the Vermont Mountaineers. Gates open at 4 with music from 6 to 9. There'll be kids' games and drinks from Bar Hill. Perfect Pitch, a benefit for the Vermont Mountaineers, Saturday, September 24th at Bar Hill in Montpelier. Tickets available at chadmusic.com.
On the Labor Day special from CBS News Radio, we'll look at the unofficial beginning of autumn and ask, why do we even have seasons? Most planets don't. Of course, we'll take a look at labor and why unions are making a comeback, why some employers are encouraging a 4-day work week, and some jobs like teachers and truckers just can't find enough workers. I'm Gil Gross. Join me here for the Labor Day special from CBS News Radio.
Monday from 9 to noon on WDEV AM and FM and streaming at WDEVradio.com.
Labor Day weekend, it's time to come together and celebrate.
Come together in Northfield. Labor Day.
Saturday, Sunday, and Monday in downtown Northfield.
Hey, it's Charlie Papillo. Join me every other Monday from 1 to 2 for Travels with Charlie. Interesting conversations and open phone lines, showcasing community events, political discussions, and in our series Vermont Grown, businesses that have been part of Vermont for decades. Travels with Charlie is brought to you by Casella Waste Systems, Jolly Convenience Stores, and Milne Travel American Express. Podcast available at WDEVradio.com. I'll see you in my travels every other Monday from 1 to 2 right here on WDEV.
The Brady Farkas Show now has an interactive text line, so reach out now at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Red Sox baseball, about 25 minutes from now. Our coverage will begin at 6:10. First pitch, 7:10. Rich Hill is on the mound. Sox tried to blow it yesterday late, but they end up beating the Twins, salvaging Game 3, and now they welcome in the Texas Rangers tonight. Now, I welcome in, for the first time ever, Tyler Milliken on this show. Tyler Milliken, he is the associate producer of the Zolak and Bertrand show on 98.5 The Sports Hub in Boston. He's also the co-host of the very popular Jared Carabas podcast over on DraftKings. So Tyler is with us now. And Tyler, I'm going to start with this one. It's one I've been questioning a lot recently. Are the Red Sox, in your mind, are they a bad team that had a great month of June, a bad team who had one great month? Or are they a good team that's been snake bitten by playing in a very good division and having a lot of injuries? How do you read them?
I definitely lean on the second side there. I think when you look at what happened in July, where at one point you lose 4 out of 5 of your entire starting rotation, yeah, a lot of those other holes on the roster are going to come through. Now, that's not a reason. There's some people who will sit there, a lot of the Chaim Bloom defenders, and listen, I'm a Chaim Bloom guy by trade, last year talking and really supporting a lot of his stuff. This year I've been very critical. And the way I've described it to a lot of people is I think this team was a boat that had holes. There was water coming in at times, but when the injuries came and kind of wiped out this roster at the most important part of the season, losing Trevor Story, Matt Strom, and Chris Sale while going through a huge divisional stretch against the Rays, against the Yankees, where, we all kind of said this is where this team is going to show their identity. That stuff's going to catch up to you. And I think they kind of just went down that, road at that point and couldn't really recover. And they've been trying to play catch up since, but you can't play catch up when not only your roster isn't as talented as some of these other in the division, but you didn't supplement this roster for a playoff run like you basically said you were gonna.
I am a Chaim Bloom guy also. I've been defending him all year. And I look around baseball and I look at teams that have been good now and have been good recently. The White Sox stepped back, built the foundation, then they spent big. The Padres were bad for a long time, built the foundation, spent big. The Mariners have done the same thing. Toronto did the same thing. I feel like I can see the plan the Red Sox have to build the foundation. They've got $100 million to play with this offseason. I feel like they're going to use it. Do you see the vision in the same way I do, or are you starting to waffle on your Chaim Bloom love?
The way I kind of look at it this year was I think there was a legit plan that made a lot of sense coming into 2022, where last year it made sense not to completely push over the luxury tax, to sit right behind it because, all right, that team while they ended up being 2 games away from a World Series, I don't think anyone, especially considering some of the struggles they were going through, leading up into that trade deadline, thought they were going to go and win a World Series. But, you go as far as you did in 2021, 2 games away from a World Series. And then you get to this offseason, as we've seen with the Yankees, who made a really big priority to get under the luxury tax last year. They pushed over it this year beyond, just $5 to $8 million like the Red Sox did this year. When it came to the Red Sox stealing Mookie Betts to the Dodgers, the original reason for that trade and the timing of that was because Andrew Friedman believed it was time to push over the luxury tax. And as we've seen over the years, teams have pushed over the luxury tax for 2 years and got back under. Because ultimately the penalties, whether it's in the draft, and how that affects the bonus pool and different stuff like that, it catches up with you, and those penalties steepen year by year. I think what frustrated me so much with the Red Sox this year was, okay, maybe you don't go way beyond the luxury tax at the beginning of the season. You want to see how it plays out? Sure, that's fine with me. But when you get to the trade deadline this year and, you're saying, listen, we don't want to move off of all these parts. You're going to do a little buying and selling. That's where I get frustrated, because if you're going to stay over the luxury tax, that's a year where you push those chips in. That makes the following year even more of a conversation piece, because if you didn't, you really kind of missed your window to go for it. And I felt like the trade deadline this year, instead of admitting, all right, this team probably, because of injuries and because of some roster construction issues, this is probably not our year, they doubled down on it. And 2.5 weeks later, you're out of the race, and you held on to JD Martinez, who hasn't hit for 2 months, and Nate Eovaldi, who's right back on the IL once again, and you got no value out of those moves.
What's wrong with Rafael Devers? I think he's 0 for his last 17. He's hitting well under 200 since coming back from the injured list. What's going on with Rafi?
It's tough. I think there was in the second game of this Twin series, there was a ball Devers lifted for a sac fly that just, if you're talking about Rafael Devers, it looked like a ball he'd send, well beyond the bullpens if he was fully healthy. I think we're just looking at a guy who battled a bunch of injuries, had to really rush back, as we talked about during that stretch, originally at the beginning of July, then had to go on the IL again later. He was trying to save a Red Sox team that was realistically kind of drowning. And rushing back to try and do that, these are the things you kind of see. We know the kind of quality hitter Rafael Devers is. We see how much he's struggling at the plate, and the mechanics are off, and I really relate it to Xander Bogaerts, who lately we've seen the power surge come back and him drive the ball. When you have these injuries, they alter mechanics and get you lost. It feels like he's kind of out on an island alone right now.
Tyler Milliken with us here from 98.5 The Sports Hub in Boston. Also the Jared Carrabis podcast for DraftKings. He's here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Of the young guys on this team and in this organization, I guess I'd include Dahlbeck, Duran, Bayo, Crawford, Winkowski, and Siebold, and probably Connor Wong. Who do you think are guys you can actually count on next year? Like, who are the guys that you trust to be a part of this thing right from the jump next season?
It's tough. I think you talk about like the Connor Siebold and the Josh Winkowskis of the world. Connor Siebold hasn't shown much to me beyond something of a quadruple A arm. The stuff has really, truly never bounced back since he had that elbow injury a year ago. I think that's just something you got to be very careful about. He's not proven at the big league level. Josh Winkowski, if you look at a lot of his baseball savant metrics and different stuff like that, he just doesn't miss enough bats or, bats in total. And that's a real problem for a starter. We know in the Arizona Fall League, he's worked up to 99 in a relief role. Is that something you kind of go about? But I think where the Red Sox are is a lot of these young guys, you can't depend on them. And that's why it's so frustrating to see them take some time to wave the white flag. We see Bizzardo and Connor Wong today. All right, let's see what these guys have instead of watching whether it's Ryan Brazier, go out there with almost a 7 ERA. You're not getting anything out of that. You're not getting anything out of watching Jerry Familia once again. Yeah. And, I like Kevin Plawecki. Are you really getting much out of seeing him? He's hitting well, but he can't throw out anyone at this point. And for a team that already has defensive concerns, you can't really suffer those kind of things. So I think you need to answer those questions during this stretch of the season. And even someone like Jarren Duran, when you don't have any really outfield depth in the upper minors, this was his opportunity. He's turning 26 in a couple days. There's not many 26-year-old prospects that you sit after getting sent down to the minors and you're hopeful they're going to be long-term contributors. So really out of a lot of those names, none of them have proven enough to me. And that's like you said, the Red Sox have about $92 million to spend before they hit the luxury tax again for the upcoming season, I think they're going to have to spend a lot of that money because so far a lot of these prospects have not shown they're ready to contribute next year.
Of the true free agents, not including Bogarts, who has the player option, of the true free agents, who do you want back most between Kike, Waka, Rich Hill, JD, and Evaldi?
Yeah, so I'll be honest. JD, thank you for everything. One of the better deals in Red Sox history, there's no doubt. This is the third consecutive year we've seen really a significant slump, whether it was all of 2020, a majority of the middle of the 2021 season, which he talked about. Really in September, it was great that he got hot in the playoffs, but he couldn't figure it out then. And then it was kind of a similar story this year where the power was never there, but he swung the bat well the first 2 months and completely fell off. The one name that sticks out to me, and I like Michael Waka a lot, I'd definitely be interested in seeing if you could get him on a 2 to 3 year deal for something like $12 million. But he's not, a number 2 starter. He's not an arm you can really depend on moving forward. And I kind of look at Nate Evaldi with that same concern. You need dependable arms in this rotation if you're going to have Chris Sale sitting at the top. Whether you want to throw Nick Pivetta in that conversation in the rotation, Brian Bayo, Garrett Whitlock, if they end up moving him there, you need stability. And I think even Evaldi and Waka, that stability really isn't there. The one guy I do kind of turn to and say, this would make a lot of sense as a reunion is Kike Hernandez, someone who offers you really gold glove caliber defense in center field. It's clear he wasn't healthy before he went on the IL this year, but since he's come back, he's swung the bat well. I think defense is such an important part of this team, especially playing at Fenway Park. We saw Jaron Duran out there put them in such a tough spot with his defense. I think you could get him back on a cheap deal, and whether it's playing center field full time or eventually he moved into a super utility role, I think there's a lot of value you can still get there.
I know it was dicey last night, but as we talk about looking for next year, do you think Matt Barnes can rediscover himself and become a big part of this bullpen again? Maybe not the closer of 2021's first half, but are you seeing enough to at least be excited about his chances for next year?
100%. I think that's really been the best story of the Red Sox the last couple weeks since he came off the IL. And I know some people would say, well, the outing before last night, he got tagged for a couple of runs, and then last night it was 2 base runners on before he escaped. But last night told me a lot because we've seen Barnes be pretty dominant before these last 2 appearances. Hey, he didn't have his best stuff. He had to lean on the changeup a little bit, but he didn't fold. When we saw Matt Barnes before coming off the IL most recently, when things went wrong, he looked terrified out there and like he couldn't get out of it. This time around, Alex Cora goes up to him and says, trust your stuff. What does he do? He trusts his stuff. He's throwing his curve for strikes again. The velocity, it fluctuates a little bit, but it's really in that 94 to 96 range. I don't think we'll ever see first half 2021 Matt Barnes again. And there's been, partially it's overuse. Part of it, I think is some sticky stuff as well and adjusting to that. But I think you're talking about someone who will be the 7th, 8th inning arm he was really leading up to 2021.
Certainly hope that you are right. Tyler Milliken, associate producer, Zolak and Bertrand, 98.5 The Sports Hub in Boston, also co-host of the Jared Carrabis podcast on DraftKings. I'll get you out of here on this. So in addition to being a Red Sox affiliate, we are also a Patriots affiliate. So we certainly know Zoe well, and Bob Sosi comes on the show every week with us during Pat's season. I got to ask you, working on Zolak and Bertrand, what is the battle you have to fight to get Zoe to talk baseball? What is it like when the production room meetings, when you're trying to get Zoe to talk baseball?
When I tell you Zoe will fight me, any football subject he can get, Patriots or non-Patriots, that's his love. That's the language he speaks. Just like baseball for me is the language I speak. If the Red Sox are playing bad, he's down to hammer them. If they're playing good, it's kind of whatever. But that's Zoe. Zoe loves football. He loves talking to Patriots. So it's going to be a battle at times, but overall, when they're playing the way they are right now, he's ready to dunk on them in any way he can.
Tyler, we appreciate you, man. Look forward to checking out the podcast again, Jared Carrabis podcast on DraftKings. And, hey, we appreciate the time. We'll do it again.
Hell yeah, it was a blast, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler Milliken. Pretty good gig he's got over there. Not only working at 98.5 The Sports Hub, but hooking up with Jared Carrabis, one of the most prominent baseball influencers out there, and also one of the most prominent Red Sox fans out there. Interesting that Kike is the true free agent he wants back the most. I agree with a couple of our texters. I think Michael Waka is that guy for me. He's not a guy necessarily that you can trust. I wouldn't give him 4 years and $80 million. but Waka is a guy that I would try to bring back. I'd bring back Waka. I'd also go sign 2 other starters too. Like I am going to err on the side of having too many starters next year rather than not enough. But Tyler Milliken was awesome. When we come back, we'll get to the Red Sox lineups, and Chaim Bloom needs to learn this skill over the offseason. It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com.
This is WDEV, Vermont's news station, owned and operated by the Radio Vermont Group. From the top of Sugarbush, 96.1 FM, WDEV Warren and Waitsfield, 96.5 W243 Berry, 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier, along with our founding station, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury Montpelier, streaming at WDEVradio.com. 91 years of serving Vermont. The friendly pioneer, WDEV.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Dell Small Business.
I'm Matt Piper in New York. A former NYPD officer and retired Marine is sentenced to 10 years in prison for assaulting a police officer January 6th. It is the longest sentence yet in the Capitol attack. Correspondent Scott McFarland.
Thomas Webster is convicted of tackling, dragging, and swinging at a police officer. The jury rejected his argument that it was self-defense. The judge today said Webster's trial testimony was not credible. Webster will serve 10 years in prison and pay restitution.
To Florida, where a federal judge says she's considering releasing a more detailed inventory of what was taken from Mar-a-Lago during an FBI search last month. She has not yet decided whether to appoint an outside party to review the documents. In 2 hours, President Biden will address what the White House is calling the battle for the soul of the nation in a speech in Philadelphia. CBS News has learned that he will say MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards. And a new CBS News poll is just out, showing 72% of Americans still believe the rule of law is under threat. Deputy Director of Surveys, Jennifer DePinto.
This view is broad and widespread, with majorities across all major demographic groups, including most Democrats, Republicans, and independents who feel democracy is threatened.
CBS's Nora O'Donnell sits down with FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell for tonight's CBS Evening News. It's amid the ongoing water crisis in Jackson, Mississippi, where some water did start to flow to homes and businesses today, but it is not drinkable.
Our focus right now for FEMA is handling the immediate needs that Jackson, Mississippi has. And right now, that's making sure that they have safe water to drink and that we are bringing in the resources that can do some temporary repairs to restore the water pressure to the city.
And CBS's Elise Preston is talking to residents of Jackson.
So you don't have water?
No, I sure don't.
What has that been like?
It has been terrible. It is so terrible. And I really fault our governor, our officials, period. I really fault all of them because all of them should work together and solve this problem. Shouldn't have just started now. It should have been fixed years ago.
A pilot picket. More than 1,000 pilots who were off work today rallied at more than a dozen airports nationwide. Captain Jason Ambrosi is chairman of the Delta Pilots Union.
It's not just about pay. Obviously pay is an issue. It's about quality of life. Our schedules have never been worse.
This just in, the CDC is recommending updated COVID-19 vaccine boosters that target the newest Omicron strains for people 12 and older. Shots will be available soon. This is CBS News.
The Dell Technologies Labor Day event is here. Up to 48% off Vostro laptops with 12th Gen Intel Core processors. Upgrade by calling 877-ASK-DELL.
The Labor Day event from Dell Technologies is here. End the summer strong by starting up a new season of productivity. Your business upgrade begins with up to 48% off top-rated laptops, like Vostro, taking performance to the next level with 12th Gen Intel Core processors. It's time to push your growing business even further. What's next for you? Upgrade today by calling 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
My dad has a cold, but also has high blood pressure. That's why I got him Vicks NyQuil High Blood Pressure for fast, powerful nighttime relief. Unlike some ordinary cold medicines, it's specially formulated for people like my dad. NyQuil High Blood Pressure is sugar-free, alcohol-free, and decongestant-free.
Vicks NyQuil High Blood Pressure. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, fever, sore throat, cold, and flu for people with high blood pressure.
Like my dad.
Medicine. Use as directed.
Barbie is helping to inspire more kids to think big.
From now on, I'm doing my own hair, making my own hair grow.
Her story was told in a Netflix movie. Now Mattel is honoring Madam C.J. Walker with a Barbie doll. Born Sarah Friedlove, the daughter of former slaves, Walker became the first female self-made millionaire, inventing, manufacturing, and marketing a home remedy called Madam Walker's Wonderful Hair Grower in the early 1900s. She was inspired after an illness made her lose her own hair. Walker employed thousands of other Black women. Her doll wears a floral printed blouse, a bright turquoise skirt, and holds her product in its hands. Deborah Rodriguez, CBS News.
The university presidents who oversee the college football playoff are scheduled to meet tomorrow to discuss expanding the 4-team format. The presidents hope to accelerate a process that bogged down last year and reopen the possibility that a new model for crowning champion could be implemented. Matt Piper, CBS News.
Think you know sports better than Brady does? Text in with your thoughts at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
All right, I don't really have time to tell you right now what Chaim Bloom needs to learn. We will get to that, though, at some point here on the Brady Farkas Show, because it is an important topic, but we just can't do it justice in the 4 minutes we have until the Red Sox take the airwaves. We'll give you the lineups here momentarily. We'll tell you that the Red Sox roster looks a little bit differently today. September call-ups are here, but it's different than it used to be. Remember back in the day, you could bring up the entire 40-man roster, and the dugout would be huge and crowded, and there'd be a bunch of guys you never heard of, like wearing number 79, like a spring training game. Well, we don't do that anymore. It's only 2 extra guys that can come up. So 28-man rosters today is part of roster expansion. So I'm 50-50 on this news today, right? I'm all for seeing the young guys, seeing what else the Red Sox have. But so Connor Wong is here. That's someone I am excited to see. He should play as much as possible. Kind of what Tyler just said. Do we really need to watch more Kevin Plawecki? I'd rather watch Connor Wong. As for Edward Bizzardo, who we saw very briefly, last year, I think we saw him for 2 games last year. He finished 1. I think he threw 3 innings. Meh. What I would have rather seen done is Edward Bizzardo comes up, Ryan Brazier gets DFA'd, and Tristan Casas comes up too. Like, I want to see Tristan Casas at this point. Wong is good. We should see him, but I want to see Casas. And I get we still could see him in September at some point, but I want to get a longer look at Casas. Our goal, our hope, was for him to be the starting first baseman next season. And if we never see him in the majors, we just aren't going to know. I want to know if I can trade Bobby Dahlbeck. Do I have an answer and I can trade Dahlbeck? Do I have an in-house answer, or do I need to sign a first baseman? Do I need to keep Eric Hosmer? Can I trade Eric Hosmer? These are things I want answered, and they don't get answered if Tristan Casas is never here. Tristan Casas could make Dahlbeck and Hosmer both expendable, and I would be down for that. But if he doesn't get on the field, we're not going to get that answer. I know he's been hurt. I know that the organization wants him to get reps in play, but look, he's played 75 games this year at AAA. He's played 85 games at AAA in his career. He's got about 1,100 minor league at-bats. It's just time to see. Like, I've heard that you kind of need at least 1,000 plate appearances in the minors, right? He's got like 1,200 plate appearances, over 1,000 official at-bats. Adley Rutschman had like 680 at-bats. Julio Rodriguez had like 800 at-bats. Guys who are younger than Casas and are going to be in the Rookie of the Year conversation, they're here already. Casas, to me, has enough to be up for some relatively meaningless, low-pressure September baseball games. This is the guy that I want to see. Let's see Connor Wong. Let's give him a long leash. See if he and Reese McGuire can be the answers next year. But Edward Bizzardo, I'm happy for him that he's back in the majors, but I would have rather gotten rid of Brazier, brought up Bizzardo, and seen Casas. That's where I'm at with that. The Rangers Rangers are 58-71. The Sox are 63-68. Rich Hill's on the mound for Boston at 6-5. Tommy Pham's behind him in left. Alex Verdugo in right. Xander Bogaerts at short. Rafi Devers at third. JD Martinez, the DH. Christian Arroyo at second. Franchi Cordero at first. Rob Refsnyder in center. And Kevin Plawecki, the catcher. So no Connor Wong today. For the Rangers, Glenn Otto pitches. He's 6-8 with a 4.79. Marcus Semien leads off at second. Corey Seager's at shortstop. Nathaniel Lowe is at first. Adolis Garcia is in right. Jonah Heim is the catcher. Leody Taveras is in center. Mark Mathias is the designated hitter. Charlie Culberson's at third. And Bubba Thompson is in left. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to Tyler Milliken. Go download the interview. Go download the podcast on the Brady Farkas Show podcast channel on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and WDEVradio.com. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Go Sox right here on WDEV AM and FM.